club members, and welcome to our September shipment kind of recaps and lessons. We can't believe that 3 weeks have passed since we posted the last videos already. In the ever-ending, I feel like we're way behind marathon. We are right back where we started, which is trying to play catch up.
As usual.
As usual, yeah. So the good news is this, and we're about to get back on pace again because as we get this video launched for technically September, I'm actually leaving for time away later this month in October. So we will be turning back around next week, getting the Octobers done, get those out, and for once we'll be ahead of schedule, and then we can keep that pace up, which is going to help us a ton. So, so for that, again, thank you for your Beta Club patience. But feel really good about not only what we're going to talk about today, but also what we kind of put together for you and then what we sent out. So, you know, I am super excited because, you know, we got that first shipment because we basically said, hey, we're gonna see what this is like. A bunch of people gave us money. We were like, crap, we need to get some whiskey in a bottle. We threw it out there. We got it out there. But we didn't want to lose sight of the fact that this wasn't just about shipping bottles. You know, yeah, we want to actually make sure that we are addressing, hey, I remember when I first started drinking whiskey, and it wasn't because I was dissecting it and trying to taste it the right way. I was just mixing it with Coke or drinking it straight, but I was drinking it just as a way of drinking, not to try to enjoy the spirit. And the more that I've done this, I've started to really learn there's a lot of do's and don'ts, but there's also things that will enhance your tasting experience if you do it the right way. So,
and I've learned a lot of that from you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, we're still kind of going through it. You know, as we kind of even expand our own palates, we're having to kind of go back to the basics to make sure that we're keeping true to what we're tasting and that we're not playing biases. Because when you start drinking a lot of different whiskeys, you'll start to go, this is one of your big ones, I don't like this. And I'm like, man, there's so many layers to age and char level and the mash bill, the type of.
Well, that was my rye lesson.
Yeah,
my rye lesson. I don't like rye. It's like, actually, you do like rye, and this has more rye than you think it does.
Yeah,
sure enough.
So yeah, so I think this is gonna be exciting because so we're gonna do a little bit of 101 on this. So we're gonna kind of go with a whiskey basics. I am going to, as we launch this video this cycle, we're gonna send out through a campaign, so to your email. Two things. One's going to be an attachment of basically Whiskey Tasting 101. It's a guide. You can read a little bit deeper into it. You can kind of shoot off from there if you want to and read and study some more. But I felt it's a really good guide of keeping it super simple, but really informative of why the things matter. Yeah.
Well, it's something that I wish I would have had off the bat. I mean, I think that, you know, when I first started, you know, sampling different bourbons and getting appreciation for whiskey, I wish I would have had some kind of a wheel like that would have helped kind of point me in the right direction.
Well, yeah, and that's the second one. So also send a bourbon wheel. So a bourbon wheel is just going to be something you can print out. You can leave it on your computer if you want. The thing about it is it allows you to have a nose, flavor, finish wheel that you can start to kind of score what you're tasting with all the common notes and colors and flavors that you're going to get out of American whiskey. So as you're taking notes and as you're starting to understand what it is you're drinking, it gives you a really good compass on to what you're doing, how you're getting there, and what you like and don't like. I think early on, you know, I'd bring a bunch over whiskey and I'd be like, try this. And you try, you're like, I like it. And I'm like, okay, what about this one? You're like, I like that one more, or I like it a little less.
Yeah.
I don't like that one. But we weren't talking about why.
I had no vocabulary.
Yeah.
I had no understanding or appreciation of the different flavors, and I think that was, you know, one of my favorite parts of sampling different bourbons and American whiskeys is the opportunity to actually taste those flavors and understand, you know, what the marshmallow flavor may be, what the nose is, why I'm getting some sweetness on this end, why it could be a little bit oaky, you know, what the finish is like. I mean, that it changes the way that you appreciate bourbon or American whiskey in general, and you know, I hope everybody can learn a little bit more about it
from this. And look, you'll see it too when we send out the tasting notes. Like a lot of American whiskeys are always going to have notes of caramel, vanilla, leather, tobacco. You know, you get those kind of flavors, but they're not all created equal. And
it may not be what what you taste.
Yeah, for sure, and that's a whole other piece.
Yeah.
But there are so many other notes of honey and herbs and mint and spearmint, and you get more of a toffee. I know it's similar, but it does go into like raw sugar,
Candy, candied almond, orange peel,
baking spices. So that's what makes it really fun. Is based on the mash bills, the ages, and the different treatments that these whiskeys go through. Is what makes you be able to pick those things out. The more you do it, the more you'll be able to.
When I used to read the tasting profiles and be like, I don't taste that at all. And then the more bourbon I tried, the more American whiskeys that I sampled, the more I started to actually taste some of those flavors. And, I think it was just, I had more of an appreciation for what it was that we were trying.
So we're going to go through a handful of basics. All right, so we're going to do a couple Q&A kind of scenarios of how to get yourself started and set up for your first tasting. Then we'll roll right into this month's pour. And then hopefully you'll be able to apply some of what we sent you and what you just learned into this tasting, because I think it will really enhance this particular choice. And there's a reason we chose this bourbon to kind of coincide with how to taste whiskey, because it's a flavor bomb for sure.
Well, it's one of our favorite daily drinkers.
No, for sure. So as we talk about the basics, do you recall some of the early hesitations that you had, or something that you were unsure of, or maybe heard conflicting stories of, that you weren't certain of?
I think I would start off with just, the age-old question of, does size matter? But in this case, it was really like, does the glassware matter?
Yeah.
What you're pouring it in, does that make a difference? Because I do remember and reflect on a time where I brought out a couple of, kind of shot glass kind of tasters that I thought would, just be enough for just a tiny little, half ounce kind of, flight, if you will. And you were like, let's try something a little bit different. So, does the glassware matter?
Yeah, first off, I don't really remember that, but I apologize for being an uppity asshole neighbor. If that's like in an early way, I was like, scoffing on your glassware. But I would probably imagine we were also pouring something that we really wanted to taste, right?
Absolutely.
So to that point, then yes, the glassware does matter. So there are traditional and kind of slightly more modern versions of glassware that are popular in whiskey tastings. The first I don't actually own, I don't use, and probably the oldest are tulips. Tulips are kind of like a fluted, great for swirling, great for smelling, but they also have a stem to them. And the stem just allows you to keep your hand that might have smells on it away from what you're trying to get out of the glass, right? So super old school way of drinking whiskey. I don't trust myself with a lot of stemware, so I usually stick away from things with the longer stems on them. So the next thing, and probably the most common that you see in today's whiskey tastings, etc., is a Glencairn. A Glencairn is one of these guys, which is pretty much the same kind of tulip shape, but it's obviously a heavier footed bottom there that prevents you from like knocking it over or breakage and that kind of stuff. So the reason that this is important from a shape standpoint is, one, it's got a bowl. So a bowl allows for better swirling around. Letting your whiskey breathe a little bit. It's been in the bottle for a while and it's in a barrel for even longer. Yeah. It allows then for some of the ethanol to escape. And it just kind of lets you thin it out a little bit. You can check the legs and color really well that way, but it just gives you a chance to introduce some oxygen into it.
So it's a lot similar to, I guess, wine tasting.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. And like some certain wines that are very, characteristic of very intense smells that you're trying to get. The reason this is got that nice concentrated top end is because now it's trying to funnel all that smell directly to you, for you can smell it. Which is why it's very important that you don't stick your nose in this thing to try to smell it. It smells plenty. You don't need, once you do this, you're going to shock your olfactory system with a whole lot of alcohol, ethanol.
And that was one of the first things I learned from you, because I was like always trying to get my nose right into it, because I thought if the closer I get, the better smell I'm going to get, the more I'm going to taste through the nose.
Yeah.
And quickly realized that it's really about getting on yourself.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of room there.
Breathe normally.
Yeah.
Small breath in, nice distance away. You can sometimes tilt it like like the wood and wine on the opposite side of the glass. But keep in mind this, and this is something that as I was kind of preparing for this is a great takeaway and thing to remember. Your mouth can recognize about 4 different true flavors, right? 4 different sense of tastes, and it kind of combines those and sends a bunch of signals to your brain that what it thinks it's tasting. But your nose can detect 32 different smells. So if you go ahead and jump straight in and you inhale and burn off your nose, burn that nose right off, you're actually going to taste differently. Because when you are tasting these layered flavors in bourbon, it is your olfactory system that is still bringing it in, that's allowing you to taste what you're tasting. It's not your mouth. So making sure you don't burn away your nose on sticking your nose in pure ethanol is a great way to start. So important part on that. These are great if you're really trying to concentrate and you're really serious about getting the layers and notes and you don't want anything competing with them. If you're not going to go get yourself some specialty glassware or anything like that, the old whiskey glass, low ball, rocks glass,
My favorite.
old-fashioned glass, whatever
Go-to.
you call it. This is your go-to. It's also super practical because you can also make yourself a cocktail on one of these just the same. We've all got our own versions of them. You see them everywhere with people's decanters. It's great for what it still needs to be. It's obviously got a wider rim up top, but still it's small enough where you can get plenty of flavor and smell out of it. I actually believe one of my favorite things about drinking bourbon, and specifically older bourbon and rich bourbon, is that once you finish your first glass and everything kind of burns out, what's left behind is like what smells like my grandfather's pipe tobacco. And I actually believe that in a glass like this, you get a little bit more of the tobacco because it allows more alcohol to evaporate than in a Glencairn. So, you can't go wrong with either one of these guys. If you're getting really serious and you want to really start getting down to business and really dissecting some stuff, get yourself some of these at some point, but they're certainly not necessary for you to enjoy the bourbon that you're drinking. So
let's talk a little bit about, I think, another poignant question that comes up quite a bit, and it's the old ice or no ice. A lot of people want to drink it neat or they want to drink it on the rocks. I know it's cool to go to a bar and be like, I'll have that on the rocks. I know when I was younger, that was something that I couldn't wait to go into a bar and be like, I'll take that on the rocks. Sounds cool, but let's talk a little bit about ice.
Well, and look, that's great. I mean, it's interesting you put that. And by the way, guys, we don't rehearse this. We kind of just
it's all free form.
If you can't tell,
there's no storyboarding.
It's interesting that you put that up there. That it used to be cool to kind of order on the rocks. What's kind of happened now as we become more whiskey literate, it's almost now a don't you dare put ice in my glass. I need it neat. I drink my whiskey neat.
I think I've become bougie in that way.
Yeah, and look, the true answer is there isn't a right or wrong answer. Some of the best distillers in the world will tell you drink their whiskey however you like it the most. But there is a difference, and I think that's the thing here. I have now gone from, I used to also go, I'll take my makers with 3 ice cubes, please. And that's, when I was in college thinking I was just a badass. What a tool. And then to this point where now it's like, no, I'm a purist and I just want to taste the whiskey. But the further you go down this road, you start to realize, oh, wow, you know what this one really needs? It needs an ice cube, and why? Here's what's going on. If you have a whiskey and you drink it, and you go like, wow, that's hot. I'm getting heat. And I don't mean the burn or the Kentucky hug. I mean, it's hot.
Like it's straight hot.
Yeah. Well, what that is, it is the true ethanol particles that you are putting into your mouth, telling your brain, ouch, pain, hurt. And your brain deciphers that as heat.
Yeah.
So that's why it tastes, a cool beverage tastes hot. The one thing that ice does is twofold. One, you throw it and bring the temperature way down, or you add some water, and it instantly tricks your brain by saying, not as hot. Because you're getting cool notes, right? So you're getting now ice with it, and it kind of overrides the pain factor. So that's what's happening when you do that. Now, the thing about ice also is that it literally can chemically change the whiskey that's in the glass a little bit, and that's why the mouthfeel starts to change a little bit. Often it'll round some flavors out, gives it a creamier mouthfeel, so it kind of almost feels like it gets a little thicker, coats your mouth a little differently, can make something a little more pleasant to drink, and often makes different highlighted tastes and smells surface out of the whiskey. So then it's about finding, do you like that whiskey with ice or not? Not, is it right? And I think that's the biggest thing. There's no right answer. It's how you like to drink your whiskey. I personally believe that there's a lot of rules for it. Obviously your higher proof are the things that can sometimes really stand a little bit of water or a little bit of ice to allow that to open up a little bit. But it's still just personal preference. You might not want that, and so therefore you don't want to do it. So we talked about the ice, but not all ice is created equal, right?
Exactly. I was just going to get to that.
Yeah.
Because, it's not just about, grabbing some ice out of your freezer or grabbing it out of the tap.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, yeah, look, if maybe your local municipality doesn't have the greatest water, and so you're going to open up
chlorinated.
A great bottle of bourbon, and then you're just going to, freeze a block of sewer ice and drop it in there and go like, this whiskey sucks.
Yeah.
Making distilled ice cubes in your freezer, look, hopefully you don't need that many. You're not pounding whiskey every night. Having 2 or 3 that you have a mold in there that you can utilize is a great thing if you're going to get into tasting whiskey. You see a lot of things that are like whiskey rocks. Mm-hmm. Those are like either actual like rock texture or like stainless steel that you freeze. You drop them in there, and that whole point is just to bring the temperature down, but it doesn't add any water, so it's not going to change chemically. It's not going to water it down.
I have rocks in my pantry that I haven't used yet.
Yeah, I'm not a fan because I don't like it cold. The only reason I want it cold is if I'm actually going to let the ice cube melt slowly.
Disclaimer though, thank you. It was a great Father's Day gift.
Perfect. I love having them. I just don't use them.
I appreciate you contributing to my hobby.
But you go back to, so type of water obviously matters. The second part is the size of the ice, shape of the ice, etc. The whole point is to get a slow melt. So that's why you see like the larger cubes being a thing, because it brings the core temperature of that ice further down. It's a bit larger mass, so it doesn't melt so fast. And then why spherical ones are so great, because there's less surface area, so they melt slower. That's the science behind why a big ice ball is probably your best option.
Absolutely.
For pouring whiskey on top of. A small bunch, like 3 little small crushy ice cubes straight, is going to melt instantly. It's just like pouring water into it.
Yeah. Good for cheap bourbon, but not great.
Yeah, and it's just like if you're going to do that, just throw some Coke in it, and cheer wine, one of my favorites.
Cheer wine,
game day special, a little bourbon and cheer wine. Yeah. It's like a great little cocktail.
Let's do some Knob Hill.
Yeah, Knob Hill, Knob Creek. It's a grocery store.
Sorry. And it's also a spot in San Francisco.
Or Hickory Hill.
Hickory.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, enough nerding out of that stuff. But those are some like core things when it comes to glassware and ice. That if you do those 2 things right, you're at least setting yourself up for success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I guess it kind of leads us to the, what other advice would you give for anyone who's, really looking to, just start up, looking to learn more about bourbon. I mean, we covered the glassware, we covered some ice, but what's some general advice?
Look, if you signed up for this, you obviously care, you want to learn a little more. So 1, good on you. Like, that's the first thing. Take interest in it.
Absolutely.
Our role is to pay attention to what we send out like this. Start to utilize what we talk about month after month when we give you a pour to apply to that pour. But you're not going to be able to do that if you don't take notes. Get yourself a little whiskey journal. One of our goals is long term. We want to be able to provide like club merchandise, right? Yeah. One of my first goals is like I want a club whiskey journal. Yeah. And that's going to be something as a perk that we can also offer. But the importance of that is that you actually remember what you like and why.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to go through and try 2 or 3 whiskeys, and you're like, I like that one. I think I remembered I liked that one, but you don't know why. You don't remember what it was about it that made you like it because you didn't use the flavor wheel. You didn't do a proper tasting. You didn't take any notes. And as a result, you don't know how to use that knowledge to pick a future whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal through this is that as you use what we're sending you this month and you start to drink more whiskeys, if you track what you're doing, you pay attention, you take some notes, it's not rocket science. It's your taste. It's, you know, there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. We have different flavor profiles, and some of the things that I like aren't necessarily his favorite, and vice versa. Right. So that doesn't mean that he or I are right or wrong. It's just how we experience it. So don't put pressure on yourself to feel like you're getting things right. Just be able to use your own words at first, and then maybe you start to use some of the words that you learn that are better identifiers that you could speak to another whiskey drinker and you can kind of start to find middle ground on. But that's what makes this fun, at least for me, is I can taste whiskey A, B, and C and start to now understand a little bit about what the mash bill is, what the age profile is, what the char level was. And then if I know the distiller as well, like, and I start to know the secrets of that distillery and understand what other things that they make, maybe I can go find a $12, $14 bottle that I know is pretty much the same mash bill, just a little younger. Or if I want to splurge, I now know that this is my flavor profile. This is what I've been wanting to try. And now if I'm going to spend $75 on a bottle, I'm buying it because that's what I want. I'm not going, man, I hope I didn't just waste $75. So that's the point of kind of keeping up with what you're tasting, what you like, and kind of keeping up. So I'd say more than anything is jump in both feet. Don't be scared that you don't know what you're doing. You know what you like and don't like. The other thing I will say, and this goes true for anything you're gonna look. I'm a big food guy. Beer, wine, spirits. Never taste something once and go, I don't like it.
I was just going to comment on that because I think, you know, the education that I've received over, you know, the last year and understanding my own profile, the mash bills that I may or may not like, but going through this entire process, going back a second time and trying bourbons that I was like, or American whiskeys where I was like, I don't like that. Like, for instance, rye, you know, we mentioned earlier, you know, I actually probably do like more of a higher rye whiskey. And I didn't realize that at first. As a matter of fact, I was totally cut off to it.
Yeah.
And then I've gone back now after having, you know, a little bit of education and trying more whiskeys in general. And now all of a sudden, you know, I'm trying things again for the second or third time, and it's opening up to me, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that is actually really good. And I do like this, and I like it on ice.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because early on, it's like you love weeded bourbons.
I've always been a weeded bourbon.
And then
absolutely,
I don't like rye.
That's right.
And then we got the David Nicholson 1843 versus Reserve.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just like the Reserve. And this is one of those things, too, where you can kind of sometimes get carried away from a label, right?
Yeah,
like, it's like,
absolutely.
Oh, the Reserve's better, right? And so he's like, I just like this one so much better. And he's drinking that. You went through a couple bottles.
Yeah, oh, that's so good. I love it.
And I was like, really? Because that's a high rye bourbon. And 1843 is the weeded. And
as my face just dropped, like, are you kidding me right now?
So,
oh wow.
So yeah, from that, look, we have probably at our disposal now a couple hundred bottles that we can kind of go to. But because of that, there's a lot of stuff we don't touch for long periods of time. And all of a sudden we open it back up. We're like, I remember when we first tasted it, we loved it.
Yeah.
I don't like it as much anymore. And vice versa. Like, I didn't really like this, and now there's something funky because our tastes are ever evolving, you know.
Absolutely.
And so don't put pressure on yourself. Just enjoy it, have fun, but take notes. You know, treat it like a hobby. Because if you didn't want to do that, you're either just supporting us, which by the way, thank you very much. Or you actually are interested in learning. And if that's the case, then give yourself 5 minutes along with your tasting to just kind of go through the process of taking the notes off the tasting sheets. And I guarantee if you start collecting those together, you'll start to learn about what you like and don't like. So
if you're watching this video, you're watching it because you have an appreciation for American whiskey and bourbon. And, this isn't about, drinking heavily or, slamming bottles of whatever. This is about, sipping, trying different pours, and really enjoying not just the historical perspective behind good American whiskey, but also just how tasty American whiskey is and the different flavors. It's been an incredible journey, and we're looking forward to continuing this journey with all of you. So
I know that was a longer one. We're trying to usually keep these videos between 5 and 10 minutes each month. But I think this one was important because I think it's a stamp on what it is and why these things are important as we begin these actual tastings on a little bit more serious business. So with that, we'll say we're going to get into the pour that we sent you this month, and we'll be right back to go through that with you. So now, let me just flip this real quick. Ugh. Do we want to pour a little bit of this as we go through?
probably.
Yeah.
I have an open one at the house.
I do too. I just got to get the one on the back.
If I can reach it. I don't think I can.
Can you get it?
Yeah. I think we both have good balance. Because slides are not the best thing to balance. We can do this one kind of quick.
Yeah, it will be. Just let me know whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. I was born ready.
I hear you. All right, Mr. Born.
Whether I was or not.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Born Ready.
Yeah. Here we go.
Here
we go.
So guys, this is fun, and if you know, and I know a couple of you who I've had whiskey with before, you're very familiar with Eagle Rare because I probably turned you onto this quite a while back. I think pretty much hands down when iconic distillery, iconic mash bill, super famous brand. But then the reason I wanted to get the tasting pieces aligned with this whiskey is I don't think that for the money especially there is more of a perfect flavor bomb for what whiskey can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where ironically enough from the same distillery, but you get something like a Blanton's where it's like hey, this, if you don't think you like whiskey, I'm going to pour you this and it's mild enough with enough flavor that you go, that's not bad. You pour it on ice and you're like, I could sip this like it's a cocktail. It's really good, but it's subtle.
Yeah.
This is not subtle. And I don't mean that it means that it's hot or that it's too much. It's just a flavor bomb. So what we're talking about is from Buffalo Trace Distillery, mash bill number 1. It is Eagle Rare. So some cool stories about Eagle Rare. So they recently, a handful of years ago, actually removed it from the bottle. However, this is a low rye, less than 10%. Rye, by the way, is where you do get your spice and a little bit of heat from, usually in a mash bill. So low rye, low heat, 10-year-old.
Minimum.
Minimum, but it's at least 10 years old, and technically single barrel.
Yeah.
Now that's what's crazy because you can also usually find this bottle for about $30. So it's bananas. $30, 10-year-old single barrel bourbon from a legendary distillery. The reason it no longer says single barrel is years back, just because of production, they went from a hand bottling process into a line bottling process. And because they don't shut the machine off on the last pour from one barrel as it goes into the next barrel, therefore they cannot guarantee that you don't get a little bit of splashing or a mix of one barrel into the next barrel on one bottle. They can no longer say that it's single barrel. However,
regulation.
It's a single barrel.
Yeah.
So it's a single barrel, 10-year-old Buffalo Trace, low rye pour. Basically, Eagle Rare. Eagle Rare also has Eagle Rare 17 is part of the antique collection.
Double.
Then they got the Double Eagle.
Yeah.
Always makes me think of an old comedian, double hawk. He's just a hawk with 4 sets of wings.
Yeah.
But Eagle Rare has become extremely collectible, especially Eagle Rare is part of the antique collection. And Eagle Rare, Double Eagle is like,
Oh, good luck.
oh my God, it's a $5,000 bottle of bourbon, like if you can get it.
Yeah.
So at beginning at $5,000.
Although the 17 usually releases around fall.
Yeah, 17 does, their antique collection always does. So when they do their Sazerac, Handy, Eagle Rare, William L. LaRue, all those antique collections come out as a library collection.
So if you find some and you want to ship some to us, let us know.
Absolutely.
We'd like to get some.
But this guy, so this is one that when you start to go down the profile again of aroma. So we're gonna go with this right here. And just like you, we're hoping you're pouring your pour right now as well. We're very excited if you've never had it for you to try it, because I think it'll maybe change your opinion a little bit on, just like the profile that just drinking straight whiskey has for you. So again, don't stick your nose in it, but get your kind of aroma going. And you're going to get toffee, some candied orange peel. You might get some of the toasted marshmallow that you mentioned before, because it does have a sweetness to it. So you get that little bit of slightly smoky, sweet, burnt sugar kind of smell.
I definitely get a little bit of orange peel. Definitely get the toffee.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all I need.
I feel like we're in the movie Ratatouille right now, when he's teaching his brother how to taste the mushroom that he just got struck by
My
lightning
kids
with.
just watched that the other day.
I did too, ironically. But now the thing about any whiskey is it sits in the glass too, so you're gonna get all that. As you sip it and as it sits, you're gonna get some slightly different smells as well, and that's where you get some of the herbs. It's gonna soften with a little bit of a honey. And then you'll actually turn, as more alcohol exits out, to more of a leather and oak. That's a lot of smell profiles to go on in a glass. You might not get all of it, but you might pick one or two out.
A little candied almond.
Yeah. And that now in the taste, or still we're still talking aroma.
No, in the taste.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I
jumped in.
Jumping the gun.
You put a pour in front of me.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. So one of the predominant kind of early notes on that is like a candied almond, or almost like those, those little
It's oaky.
Italian candied almonds. You get some of that. Very rich cocoa as well. So like on the finish, like a baking cocoa that you kind of get on the back end of it. Now guys, keep in mind, when I say things like rich cocoa, you're not going to taste fudge brownies. No. But as you really allow it to sit on your tongue, and as you taste after you swallow, you'll start to pick these notes up, and they'll start, and it's
a lingering profile.
They're really, really accurate. I think
so.
Candied almond and rich cocoa on the body of the taste is extremely accurate on this whiskey.
I agree.
And then finally, the finish. It is a fairly dry and lingering finish on it. On the back end after you swallow it and you're sitting there, believe it or not, you get like some bubble gum. You get that light leather again, and like any full-bodied, you start to get that vanilla. So
it's an amazing pour for the price. I don't know how long it'll last at this price point.
Yeah.
I know you and I have had discussions in the past that this could be the next Weller or whatever that is, but it's an incredible buy.
Yeah, you never know. Look, your big signals on that kind of stuff is when places start allocating, right? And a lot of shops that we go to, your Total Wine and Mores and your grocery stores, whatever, they'll have like a note card of limit one right there on a lot of your Eagle Rare. And they're anywhere from $30 to $36 usually. I literally was just where I was last night, saw it in a Total Wine for $29.99. And it's just, you can't, a 10-year-old single barrel unbelievable pour for $30 is ludicrous, but it won't be that way for long.
No.
I mean, I remember drinking Blanton's for $46 a bottle.
Yeah. I think that was an alarm that said you needed to pour another.
Okay,
That was
gotcha.
our,
It's probably the everybody's asleep now, or
Yeah,
they're so
yeah,
desperate to,
they're like everybody's shutting off the.
or you know what it is.
That's your
You know what it is?
phone, eh?
No. I grabbed my wife's phone and put it in my pocket thinking it was mine, and she is now searching for her
Oh,
phone.
well, there you go.
So,
As you know, this is not. There's no production here.
No.
This is just straight raw.
Hey,
I knew it.
Yes,
I put it in my pocket, not
Yes.
thinking. So,
and that's okay. Come grab it. Would you like a pour?
Oh, good, thank you.
No.
I like my phone, please.
there you go. All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Carry on.
All right. So, as you can tell, it is not a well rehearsed or well oiled machine at this point,
No.
but it's real life.
Nor will it be.
Yeah, we don't want
So
it. We don't
that's
want it
not
to be.
what we do.
So again, hopefully this helps. I think that this whiskey is going to do wonders for you in opening your brain and your mind up to the complexities in one glass, because there's just a ton going on. And if you're sharing this with someone, they might be getting different notes than you. Remember, nobody's right.
That's right.
It's just what you taste. If you're doing this and sharing this with somebody, that's why we tried to make it like a 4-ounce pour. Is you can have 2 full 2-ounce pours out of it. If you're splitting with somebody, create 2 journals. Start comparing these together. It's just a fun hobby. The tools are going to be really helpful for you. Excited to hear your feedback on your thoughts on this whiskey and your thoughts on using a tasting sheet for the first time and seeing how it impacted your enjoyment of trying the whiskey. So
Absolutely. And just know that it's a gem of a bourbon. So if you see it locally in your stores or
it's getting harder to find.
It's getting harder to find. When I see it out, I buy at least a couple bottles of it if it's available, especially at the right price point. But enjoy it, and if this bourbon's not for you, there's plenty of other bourbons out there, but this is a 10-year
single barrel
bourbon.
Yeah, for our price point for this club, it's
under $35.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to match that guy from just a.
I just don't know
profile.
if you can match that. But,
Yeah, but what we'll do.
good luck hunting.
Yeah, but good luck hunting. Try to find yourself something fun. If there's something that you definitely want to try, drop it in the comments underneath. And if not, what we'll do is we'll set fast on next week picking the next bottle of something that really is different from this.
Yeah.
So again, enjoy. Cheers, and into October we go.
All right.
All right, guys.